Apologies. Apologies to everybody in the silver tent watching the Facebook Live. I'm going to go through that again. So I'm going to reintroduce you, Tanya.
Woohoo!
Take two. Dr. Tanya English is known as the chiropractor for your soul. She helps mothers and their families who've experienced stillbirth and pregnancy loss go from grief to grace. You are not alone. Tanya's been working for over 30 years in healing, first as a massage therapist, then as a chiropractor and energy healer. She's an accomplished blues singer, and after experiencing a stillbirth in 1994, she had a profound healing experience through blues music. She then went on to practice chiropractic and energy healing for the next 18 years. And in 2012, she started her band and witnessed more healing with her audience and with her clients online internationally. She knows that the darkest tragedy can hold an endless well of blessings. That happened just so that I could say that several more times, I think, and really feel that in my heart.
Yeah. Beautiful, though. It's a beautiful thing.
It's really beautiful.
Why not experience it more?
Yeah. So my first question has to be around the statement that you have on your website about how we are born with the power to heal. So I wonder if you could share more about what that actually means and how you came to that.
Okay, so two ways this shows up, really. Thanks for having me, Francesca. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad to be here with you and be able to talk about this, because people tend to not think about themselves until something's wrong. Something doesn't feel right, or they have some kind of symptom. But here's what's been happening under the surface of all that, as your body's been healing all the time. You get a paper cut. What do you do with the paper cut? Put it in your mouth, right? You always put your finger in your mouth when you get a paper cut. You know that there's enzymes in your saliva that start the healing process. And as soon as you get a cut, your body starts to knit it together. You don't have to think about that. You don't have to put any energy toward it, really. And our body, like if I had all the scars from the paper cuts I've had throughout my life, right? So the body knows how to do that. We don't have to know in our thinking minds things. So the fact is that you've always been having this power of healing, but you haven't really been putting attention on it. Not you in particular, you in general, okay? So when you don't put attention on it, when you don't put attention on something, it can't grow and expand. If you leave a plant alone, it's going to die. When you put attention on things that you want to focus on, then they grow and expand. So when you put attention on your healing, you grow and expand, because you're a healing being. You're a self-healing mechanism. That's how we work. You don't have to think about it. Like one of the examples that I like to use is for a woman who's pregnant, you don't have to know when to make the baby's liver. And if it were up to me, I probably would have made blood and then went, oh, darn, blood vessels. Yeah, I need those first. So I don't have that kind of knowledge. I don't need it because it's in me already. Now, the fact is that things do go wrong, and we'll say wrong with quotes, because is it really wrong? Maybe it's not. Maybe what's happening is there's some interference that's creating some kind of miscommunication. That's what chiropractic's all about, removing interference so the body can heal. That's chiropractic 101. Removing the interference means putting the bone back in place where it's been partially dislocated. We call that a subluxation, partial dislocation, where it's not moving the way it should. It's not moving easily. So people tend to think of chiropractors as back doctors. Why? Because the spine that's housing the central nervous system is in the back. It's in your back. And so that vertebrae, all the discs, they're all there to house that central nervous system, which is your brain and your spinal cord. Really simple. Your brain is encased in your cranium. Your spinal cord is encased in the bones of your vertebrae and the discs that help separate it and make it move easily and bring in nutrients as they're pumped up and down and moved around. And then the nerves come out from between the vertebrae and they go everywhere. There are so many nerves in your body that if we took everything else away that we could touch and see and just left your nervous system sitting there, we'd still be able to recognize you. We go, oh, that's Francesca.
Wow.
That's how many nerves there are.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, there's so many nerves that there's nerves that go to your nerves. Those are called nervous nervosum. Sometimes it feels like they're all on fire or they're all pissed off. But
I'm loving the way that you're describing this.
it's
like so real. And
Leighton's textbook of medical physiology, it's all in there. I'm not making anything up. So when people say, oh, I don't believe in chiropractic, I'm like, well, do you turn a light switch on? Do you know how the light turns on when you flip the switch? Well, no, like, but you use it. If anybody, okay, so this is a good analogy. If you had to describe how this works in order to be able to use it, would you be able to use it?
if I had to describe it in order to be able to use it, no.
Yeah, because you just go, okay, Zoom, blah, 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 here we go.
Yeah, Zoom does it. I can't describe how it works.
Right.
But
So why would you think, without any anatomy and physiology, that you would have to know all that before you could actually do healing? You could do healing.
Wow.
And here, this right in here, this brain in here, that is a transmitter and receiver. And there's more electrical activity in the heart than there is in the brain. That's why people can be brain dead and still be alive, because their heart sees things and has its own, it has a Purkinje bundle, it's called, and it has an AV node, atrioventricular node. That's all electrical. So that's why I teach people to hug on the left. When you go to hug somebody, hug on the left, because then our hearts are together and that has the most electrical activity. So when we put our hearts closer together, oh, it's a beautiful thing. So try this with people that you know, and you don't have to tell them ahead of time, but people will generally go to hug on the right. They'll go like this, always. But what you could do is you could just go, oh, it's really good to see you. Push them away and bring them in on the left. Ah, it's so good to see you. And that hug is going to mean so much more. And it's all subconscious. They don't know, but they'll feel it. And they'll also feel the love.
How interesting that we seem to be taught to hug on the wrong side then, isn't it?
Isn't it interesting? It's sort of like, I can let you in this much. But you'll notice with children and parents, like me and my husband, I'm always putting my head on his left shoulder. He's also taller than me, but that's where I like to be. That's my favorite spot, with my head on his left shoulder, because I'm closer to his heart that way.
I love it.
If I'm on my right side and we're lying down, then yeah, left to left.
Wow. So yes, more please about the body and the nerves. And
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that fascinating? I mean, I say to people, if you study embryology for 2 weeks, you'll be amazed that we all come out with a face on the front of our head. I mean, so much can go wrong. So much can change things. That's why people are perfect no matter what. I saw a guy on TV the other day who has no legs. And he does amazing things with his upper body, which is all he has. And he's just amazing. And we forget that, like, everybody comes differently and they're perfect just the way they are. So when people say, well, what about this baby who blah, 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 I'm like, yeah, it's not their fault. There's no blame and shame here. This is how human beings work. I'm going to share the screen with you for a minute.
Okay, and I want to check with Steffi that that's going to come through. So let's just see. Hold on one second. So Steffi. Can you see the screen share? Oh, I don't know why. Why am I typing this, Stephanie?
So I'm sure everybody can see
Yes.
this.
Yes, we can.
And what I'm showing you right here is a cartoon of a nerve, basically. So this part of your nervous system controls muscles, right? So if I want to point to something, all the muscles in my hand and arm move so that I can point to it, that right there. If there's interference here, which means it could be something pressing on the nerve, like a bone that's out of place, right? Pressing on the nerve, you get weakness, tightness, spasm, and fatigue. Now, there's about 1/9 of the nervous system that transmits pain. That's it, 1/9. And then this part of the nervous system is controlling everything else. Automatic, autonomic, same thing. When you have interference here, just put whatever disease you have in this area. Low energy, breathing problems, stomach problems, sinus, allergy, it's all going on here. But what's controlling the autonomic nervous system? I'm controlling this part with my thoughts. I want to point to my head. There's what I'm doing. I'm saying I want to point to my head. I'm thinking the thought, but what's happening over here? What's controlling this? Your feelings. That's all. Just your
Wow.
feelings. Your feelings are controlling your body
Wow.
systems. So I don't have to think about what my liver's doing, but if I'm feeling fight or flight, rest, digest, and heal, those are the two parts of the autonomic nervous system. Let me see if I can bring that up. I forgot I was going to do that part, but the autonomic nervous system is divided into two parts. It's divided into rest, digest, and heal, and it's divided into yeah, I don't know if I can find this picture, but it's two parts: rest, digest, and heal, and fight, flight, or freeze. So when you go into fight or flight, your heart rate does what?
Increases.
Yeah, your blood pressure does what?
Increases.
Increases, right? So, oh, here we go. Let me bring this up. So what happens is you have this experience of everything showing up intensely. And I'm going to share this. So here's your fight or flight response right here, fight or flight. Now, you'll notice there's one thing on this side that isn't on this side, and that's your adrenal gland right there. That's right above your kidneys. Renal, adrenal, above. So your adrenal gland is here, but there's nothing over here that's a break. There's nothing over here that says, okay, stop. So when you go into fight or flight, it takes hours to come out of it. And that's why EMTs and people who go into emergency situations have a 10-year shorter life expectancy, because having a high blood pressure and a high heart rate is not healthy for you to maintain over a period of time, unless you're running, but then you calm down again. So when you're in fight or flight response, or you're in rest, digest, and heal, you're always in one or the other. And what happens is you have this experience of constricting, pumping more blood, eyes dilating so that you can see what's going on because you're in fear. Heart rate accelerates, breathing becomes shallow and fast. By the way, your digestion stops when you do that. Your digestion stops because do you need to digest your tuna sandwich when there's a bear coming after you?
Probably
No,
not.
you need to run. So digestion stops, and also your immune response stops. You can't use up that energy because you need to get away from the danger. So if you're in that mode too much, life becomes shorter.
Wow.
This is just how human beings work. Now, this is the other part of it. This is the other part where people start to feel like there's something that they've done that's wrong. It's not wrong. It's just what happens. You can memorize that experience. your body is going to memorize anything that is in danger of its survival. Because you have two modes. You have survive, not survive. Survive, rest, digest, and heal, not survive, fight or flight response. If your body gets a signal that it's in not survive, it will do whatever it has to do to survive. And that means cut off energy to places that don't need it. So sometimes when I'm working on people, I have them lying on my table right there. You could see it. I have them lying on my table and I'll have them face down and I'll feel muscles that are tense. Well, you don't need any muscles to be tense when you're laying face down on a table. There's a split in the middle. They can breathe easily. There's no problem breathing. The reason why those muscles are contracted is because they're stuck in fight or flight response. So we have people do a specific breathing technique to get them out of it while I'm holding contacts on them so I can feel if things are evening out. And the contacts are like a fingertip, like the amount of weight of a dime on them. So I'm not pressing into them. I'm just feeling for this pulse that happens. So what happens is they're holding their breath. They're holding it for 4 seconds, a count of 4, in for set 4, holding it in for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding it out for 4, and just keep doing that nice and slow. And then their body lets go. Because now we're telling it, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay.
Can I just throw a question in?
Sure.
Let's just come up.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite a tense kind of person. I'm probably in fight or flight most of the time. Although I've got to say that I think my mum probably was, and she lasted until she
This
was
is another part of the
five.
piece of the puzzle is the DNA that we inherit from ancestors and also the patterning that we receive from parents and people around us.
Well, I remember once doing a kind of, I think I was doing a breathing thing. I was going to sleep and anyway, whatever. But I suddenly had an experience that I'm not aware of ever having had it before or since, but it was in my diaphragm, and I felt my diaphragm just go like my diaphragm was relaxing. Oh, that's kind of where I thought it was anyway, somewhere underneath.
Like up underneath the top of your rib, the bottom of your rib cage. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just the most wonderful, like, wow, what was that? And I did feel immensely relaxed afterwards. And
yeah, when you breathe in, your diaphragm goes down. When you breathe out, it goes up, right?
But it was the fact that I felt it it was a moment of when I felt it. I'm sure it's responding to me now going, you're talking about me. But I was just wondering, is that like, does the diaphragm get tense? Does it?
Everything gets tense.
Wow.
It's not just one part of you that goes into fight or flight. It's all of you. That's why when people say, well, I have this problem over here, but I have this thing too. And are they related? Well, yeah, they're in you. They're not out there somewhere else. They're in you. Of course, they're related. And they're almost always related to a subconscious emotional memory that's overriding present time. Let me say that slower.
Yes,
a subconscious emotional memory. A subconscious, you're not conscious of it. You're not conscious. It's subconscious. It's now been put into the system as this is a memory of when I was in not survive, and I know how to get out of this. I go into fight or flight so that I can survive. Oh, wait a minute. But that's not what's happening right now. That's a memory. Doesn't matter. It's overriding present time.
Wow.
Yeah. So your body's doing stuff from a memory that got triggered. Maybe it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It happens so often that you're not even aware of it anymore. So I mentioned this to somebody I was talking to. I was doing an interview and I said, so let's say you're a kid and you're riding your bike and you get hit by a red car and you're fine, but like they screech to a stop and they almost hit you, or they hit you, you fall over. Now, every time you see a red car, that goes back in. Now, it happens so often that you don't even really feel it anymore when that happens. I mean, at first you might go, ooh, red car, ooh, I remember. But after a while, you don't even feel it anymore, because now it's a memorized pattern of physiology that happened with intense emotion, or it happened chronically. Like, let's say you're living in a house with an abuser and you're a kid, so you don't have any power to get away. And you hear their footsteps. Every time you hear that footfall, every time you hear that cadence, doesn't matter if it's coming from them or not, every time that happens, you're getting ready. You're going into fight or flight.
So, I mean, this is fascinating. And
Humans are amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And are you saying that we can interrupt that?
Yes.
You can do that through chiropractic?
We can do it through chiropractic. We can do it through emotional freedom technique. We can do it through guided meditation. We can do it through breathing exercises. We can do it through, I mean, I could go on and name more. The reason why I say soul chiropractor is because we go into, how did this happen? When did this happen? How far back does this go? So when I'm doing an intuitive energy scan, that means I'm looking at the person's energy through my intuition. And I'm looking at their chakra system right behind me there on that banner. That's your chakra system. When I'm doing it through that structure and I'm seeing what's there, I can see where the blockages are in the person's energy. I don't see it as like a visual thing. It comes to me in thought forms. And sometimes I get visual, like a little movie playing out.
Let me just, oh, no, I just wanted to see if that little tinkle sound, oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. So Joanna Bristow Watkins is watching, and she said that they teach about the ANS response when they do forest bathing.
Yeah.
And yes, so really.
ANS means autonomic nervous system. So for those of you who don't know what ANS is, that's autonomic nervous system. Absolutely. Yeah, because anytime you put yourself in the way of relaxing and feeling safe, you're not going to go into fight or flight response. However, these patterns can be memorized and you're doing them subconsciously. So when people talk to me about how things aren't working for them, or they're feeling upset and depressed, I know that their body is tired, and because it's been in fight or flight.
Wow.
So then I start asking questions, and the questions I ask aren't necessarily to the person I'm talking to, they're to the person's energy. Because we're connected.
So do you find then that the body of that person, of your client, is speaking to you rather than
absolutely
it? Oh,
I call it their body, mind, spirit, because their thinking mind isn't really involved. I mean, your thinking really is the thing that screws us up so badly, right? Like, thinking is highly overrated.
Yeah.
What we need to do is feel. And this is the constant argument, like logic or emotion. Well, emotion is running your body, so what do you think? There I go, back to thinking. So if emotion is running you, you're not running you. You're not. There's a couple things you can take over from subconscious. The first one that you can take over from subconscious is your breathing. That's why 4-count breathing is so important. So breathing in for 4, let's do it. We'll do it twice. It'll take us 32 seconds. Okay, so everybody watching, you can do this with us. So exhale all your air out, and then breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it in 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through your nose only. We're going to breathe only through our nose, all the way in, and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe normally.
Thank you. Right. So through the nose. Okay.
How does that feel? Does that
great.
feel different?
Yeah, it does actually.
Even doing it twice like that, and I say, if you want to do this, do it for 5 minutes. If you can do it for 5 minutes, it's not very long. You could count how many times you do it. Oh, I've done it 8 times. And it's really not about holding it so much as it is like doing it slowly.
Yes. Yes.
So there's lots of different breathing techniques. Yoga has so many, right? And what we want to do is control our breathing so that we can go back to rest, digest, and heal. This is another reason why you don't go swimming right after you eat, because when you're digesting, all the blood in your body goes to your digestion. So if you get into trouble out in the water, you don't have the energy in your limbs because the blood isn't out there. It's in here digesting your food. So what you want to do is wait until you're somewhat digested before you go in the water.
So just a very simple question that I just have to jump back to the breathing thing.
Yeah.
Why through the nose?
Because when your sinuses are created, they're created in a spiral. And when you breathe in and out, it speeds the air up and it activates parts of the brain.
Oh, wow.
Well,
So
think about it. If you're breathing through your mouth, it's not getting up here at all.
I never even thought about that. And then no wonder, because actually that is something that I'll do if I'm trying to use a breathing technique. I'll often keep my mouth open. It's like, oh my God, you revolutionized my life already, which is fantastic. So
yeah, it's really simple.
To go back to healing, do you believe that the body can heal itself of
I
any?
don't have to believe it. It does all the time. I mean, the paper cut is really, of course it does. Otherwise, I'd be sick all the time. We all would be. It's self-healing, self-regulating. It's when we feel that there's a symptom, we're like, oh, my body's not healing the way it's supposed to. That's what we should be saying. Not, oh, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. I have a friend that was saying that to their daughter, and I said, stop telling her that. Stop telling her she's sick. Tell her her body is healing and it needs some assistance. Because now you're putting it into her that she's sick.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that with a child. Tell them, oh, your body knows how to heal. My son threw up one time. Never threw up his whole life, threw up one time. He said, what was that? And I said, that's your body getting rid of stuff it doesn't want. He's like, oh, good. Yeah, that's good.
That's great, isn't it? You know, when I took Kiala, my dog, to the vets recently, and we talked about vomiting for some reason. He said, you know, your dog's body is designed to vomit up stuff that shouldn't be in it.
That's what we do.
But I've never heard a doctor say that to me about mine. If I'm
vomiting, they don't talk about
something
healing.
Wrong.
They talk about sickness. They don't talk about healing. They're doctors of what? Medicine. They're going to give you medicine.
That's
doctors of medicine. They're not doctors of healing.
Wow. That's fantastic. So that's really exciting. So that whole perception of it's that the body is not healing the way that it should do.
Well, the way that medicine thinks of the body is that it's stupid and it doesn't know what to do. So here we're going to give it a drug and show it what to do. It's going to do it for it because your body's so dumb it doesn't know. No, your body isn't dumb. We're the ones that are dumb. I mean, we're ignorant. That's different. Okay. Ignorant means you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? So
it's so exciting. I love this kind of conversation, and I love this conversation, but it kind of feels like the right time to move on a little bit because Because in 2012, what did I write? You started your band.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's right.
yeah, exactly. And out of that came Healing with the Blues. And,
Yeah.
I can just hear that title and I'm like entranced. And so can you share with us like what Healing with the Blues is, how it came about, and yeah, how it's impacting people?
Worried blues, worried blues, you don't know my mind. Worried blues, worried blues, you don't know my mind. And when you see me laughing, I'm laughing to keep from crying. That's part of it. We have all the stuff that's going on the outside, and inside we're hurting. People are hurting. And when we sing blues music, like I just did, it hooks you right in and the healing starts because someone's identified how I'm feeling right now. Someone's identifying my feelings. I'm hearing it. Music goes right in, right? It's vibration. It's all vibration, everything. The healing's vibration, the music's vibration, it connects and it releases. So I have a lot of interviews with blues musicians on my YouTube page, my YouTube channel, Dr. Tanya English. And every musician that I talk to, I ask two questions. How did you get into the blues? And what does blues as a healer mean to you? And they all talk about emotion. They all talk about someone identifying feelings, every single one of them.
Wow.
We've all had the experience of feeling downtrodden, left behind, abandoned, betrayed, all of these things. We have all of these feelings in common. See that chart right there with the apples? The upside down apple is all negative feelings. The right side up apple is positive feelings. There's 140 feelings on that chart. We've had all of them. And they all have their own physiological expression in our physical bodies, because that's what's running our bodies, remember, is our feelings. So the blues is very specifically talking about feelings. So that song I just sang, Worried Blues, by my friend Michael Hawkeye Herman, thank you very much. He's an awesome person, one of my mentors. That speaks to how I'm feeling inside. And I started singing with my husband's, one of his bands, years ago. And I would come in and I'd sing a song every 6 weeks. They'd all play together at a jam, and they'd invite people in, and I'd come up and sing some songs. And then it got to be when I walked in the door, people go, "Are you going to sing?" I'm like, "Oh, they want me to sing." So I'm not just doing this for me now. I'm doing it because people want it. So then I said to my husband, Ed, who's a bass player, I said, "Do you want to do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, we can do this." He said, "But we're going to have to get gigs if we get a band together, because they're not just going to play so you could hear yourself sing." I'm like, "Really? You're kidding." I said, "Well, can we get some gigs?" And he goes, "Yeah, we can get gigs." So since 2012, we've been performing. And this year we're also performing. We've been at some pretty big gigs, and this year we'll be at the Mississippi Valley Blues Festival in Davenport, Iowa, again for the second time.
Wow.
First time was 2 years ago, and I was in the 10th stage where I had had my healing experience almost 30 years ago. So it came around full circle, and I'll tell you about that. When I was just about to finish chiropractic school, I had already done my undergraduate degree. I was one of those older students. I started chiropractic college when I was 30. So now you'll be able to figure out how old I am. But when I was 30, and Ed and I met, and we had both been at the Blues Fest the week before we met. So it was kind of a thing for us to do. And in 1994, we were having our first baby together, had a beautiful pregnancy, but during labor, things took a turn and our baby was stillborn. And it was extremely difficult and weird. And because I have this observer mind, I was like, what's going on here? I better pay attention to what's happening because this is a big deal. This is a life changer. And I can either go down the road of I quit everything and nobody will wonder why. I have the perfect excuse to check out if I want to. And I went down that road for about 5 minutes and I went, nah, I'm not going there. And the other road was, I need to learn from this experience as much as I possibly can. And so one of my thoughts was, what can I learn from this? And I had a theater degree, believe it or not. I had a theater degree. And the reason why I went into theater was because first of all, I could express myself and get all kinds of attention, which I love. But even as a child, I was doing magic tricks in my high chair. Ta-da! Yay! So I was kind of filling that Jones of attention, but it was interesting because it's the same reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now. If I can have people look at things from a different point of view and it will open them up and expand them, that's what we would want, right? People to expand and be aware and open. And when you expand, you drop off the stuff that you don't need. Like anything unlike love, you don't need. And then love rushes in, where those spaces are that used to hold bitterness and regret and worry. When you let those go, love rushes in, joy rushes in. All the things on the right side up part of the chart come in. So as I'm sitting there in the hospital bed going, what the hell's going on with me? And why can't I do this? I'm a healer. I've been taking good care of myself. Why am I having to go through this, right? Everybody thinks that. Why me? And I got the answer was, you're learning so that you can help more people. And he, my little baby, Edward Oliver, had his mission completed in 9 months and 10 days, because he was 10 days overdue. Everything that happened to me during that specific period of time, nothing was unusual. Lots of people are overdue. Lots of people are in labor for 3 days. Lots of people, all of it. And so I could not feel any blame or shame toward anyone else in my life that was with us during that time. But the first MD we encountered wanted to blame and shame us. Whoa. Oh, yeah. And my mother-in-law, who's a pastor, she's passed on now, but she's always around. She's a pastor. She followed the doctor into the break room and said, what is your problem? You're making them feel worse. And she said, it's been a really hard day. And she's like, get off this case. You're off. I'm firing you from this case. And the next doctor that came in to help us was the name of what my nieces and nephews call my mother for grandma. I'm not going to tell you what the name is because I don't want this doctor to be known, but it was the same name. Like, I'm like, Dr. Grandma? Oh, this is awesome. So we had all kinds of very interesting signs and things happen to us during this experience. So I knew that God was with me. I knew that I wasn't alone. And my husband was right there, rock steady. And he was going through it too. And I got to see him in the worst possible situation that you could think of, really. And he was exactly who I thought he was. And not many people get that gift. So when you're starting to look for things that are thankful, I'm like, I'm looking around. Where's the love here? Where's the joy? Count it all joy, it says. James 1:2, count it all joy. Okay, I'll bite. How can I count joy here? And there he is, right there, right there. steadfast and true. That was 32 years ago, 30, what is it, 1994, whatever it is, almost 30, right? So we're having this experience together, and had, this idea that like, there's something bigger here, so don't worry about it. And I was like, yeah, he got his job done really quick. He was only here for 9 months. Maybe he didn't even come into that body. Maybe he didn't make it all the way in, his spirit didn't come all the way into that physical body of that baby. Maybe that. But whatever it was, it's okay. It's okay. And it'll be fine. Because you're not alone, and there's love all around you. And so I said, God, just put me wherever I need to be for healing. So there we are at the Blues Fest, a few months later, 4 months later. And I said, the Blind Boys of Alabama are playing in the tent stage, and I want to go see them because I've heard them on records and they're very moving. And Ed was like, I'm going to go to the main stage. I'm going to go see that band. I went into the tent stage, and they put a healing on me through their music and through their performance. I just felt waves and waves of love flowing right through me. And I was like, wow, this is so powerful. This is so powerful. And later in life, years later, my mentor in singing blues, Miss Gloria Hardiman, alligator recording artist who lives probably nearby me, said, I'm best friends with Jimmy Carter, who was the last surviving original blind boy of Alabama, not the president. There's lots of Jimmy Carters. So she said, I'm friends with him. And I told him about you, and he wants to have dinner with you.
Wow.
So a few years ago, we went to Davenport, which is about an hour from here for the Blues Fest. That's where it is. But we went and had dinner with him before a performance at the theater there. And things come around full circle. And then 2 years later, 3, 4 years later, I'm at the Blues Fest performing in the tent stage, singing Healing with the Blues. Healing with the blues. That's right, I'm healing with the blues. I've got nothing left to lose. That's why I'm healing with the blues. Such a pain inside. The love that's there for me, I have denied. I've never had the blues this long, this deep, this wide. That's why I'm healing with the blues. Yeah.
Oh, what a treat. I wasn't expecting you to sing. And now I just want to get on a plane, come over, have some chiropractic.
September 16th, I'll be at the Blues Fest in Davenport, Iowa. You can fly into Moline, Illinois. By the way, if you decide you want to do that, I have some tickets for you. I'm getting 5 extra tickets.
Next year, I think. But
yeah, that's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I mean, anybody that's listening, you decide that you want to come here, you let me know.
Oh.
Because I'll be performing at 3 o'clock and then again later in the day. With my band. Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
And you'd said, actually, just before I launch into another question, I just want to make sure whether Steffi, right, okay. So we've got a comment from Marcia or Marsha. I'm so sorry, Marcia or Marsha. I'm not sure how to say it. Wiggers. And she said,
yeah. Marsha.
You know her?
I know of her. She and I haven't met yet, but we will.
She says exactly what you said about a memory that triggered my PTSD. Hers, when my dog was attacked by another dog and I had to break the fight up.
Yep.
It wasn't the fight that killed Hun, as it was vet neglect. Thus, loss has rocked me to the point I knew it was something else that brought trauma back. And I'm sorry, but I hope this makes sense, she says.
Absolutely, it does. And I would hesitate to call it my PTSD. It's just the human condition. And there are so many people that are suffering that don't need to suffer. You don't need to keep suffering with that. We can clear that up. Absolutely.
It's a really good point, that use of the word my. I heard myself the other day talking to myself, about my anxiety. And I realized I have said that for years. And all of a
Stop it.
sudden I went, whoa, I didn't realize I was saying that. So I'm not saying it any longer.
No, don't. It's not a good thing to identify with your symptom.
Yeah.
It's not. I know people like to have the name for what is going on. Oh, well, now I know what the name of it is. And so you can do Google searches on it. I mean, I understand that it's freeing to a certain extent. Oh, now I know what it is. It's not just in my head. Well, it's always in your head. First of all, it's always part of you. Listen, there's 4 parts to your health. There's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. What do you put most attention on? Physical. Maybe a little bit on mental, never on emotional, and hardly ever on spiritual. Because I don't want to be part of any religion. Well, it's not about religion. It's about your soul. It's about what your spirit is. Who are you without the physical? You're still you. But you're a much more infinite you because you're vibration.
I love that sense that we are more infinite, and that far, and with that, far more than we ever give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely.
Beings. There's also a
But
message.
the power is always there. The power for healing is always there.
So we've got a comment from Sally Roberts.
Sally, hi.
Loving this. The more we understand how we work, the better. I wish children could be taught about how their bodies heal. It will give them agency and ownership.
Absolutely. I used to see lots of children. I had a wall and I took a Polaroid picture of them and I let them hang their picture up on the wall and, with their parents' permission and all that. But, things change and cycles go and come. And so that's not really what's happening here anymore because I'm doing more online work with people. But yes, that is so important and everybody needs to know this. So most people have maybe a 4th or 5th grade understanding of their body. They see it as different systems, but they're not. They're all one system.
Of course.
When we start dividing ourselves up into these specific little systems, we forget that actually it's all being controlled by one thing.
And of course, that happens if you go into hospital now, isn't it? Like, oh, that's the cardiovascular area, that's the da-da-da.
Hey, listen, I had an endocrinologist tell me, oh, I don't work on that. That's something for your GYN to do. I'm like, my ovaries are endocrine glands. Why are you telling me you don't work on that? You're an endocrinologist. Oh, well, I just work on thyroid. I'm like, but your brain is an endocrine gland. It's making cerebral spinal fluid inside the ventricles. It's not there.
How did he handle that? I can't decide whether he would have hated you for that.
She didn't handle it any way that I thought she should. But I'm like, are you kidding? So you're not going to even pay attention to what's happening in my pineal gland? That's the master gland, the pituitary gland. It's just thyroid. So it turned out I have nodules on my thyroid. And they're like, well, I said, well, what do you do? Well, we cut them out and then you're on drugs for the rest of your life. And I was like, absolutely not. I said, well, do you know why they're there? And she said, no, we don't know why they're there. I'm like, well, I'm kind of not for cutting things out if you don't even know why they're there.
That's shocking to me.
It's the slippery slope that medicine works in. We're going to just cut this out because you don't need that. And then we're going to put you on drugs for the rest of your life. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
Well, I think, I'm sorry.
You don't go to a roofer and say, hey, my plumbing's not working. They all work on the same house, but the roofer's not going to fix your plumbing. So why don't you go to somebody that can look at the whole thing and say, oh, here's the problem. Yeah. The roof is leaking. We'll get a roofer to fix that. And your plumbing sucks. So we're going to get a plumber to work. It's like, let's get somebody that can look at the whole thing. So I look at physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, all of those things, because they're intertwined. when you influence one, you influence the others. But physical, if that's all you put your attention on, remember what I said at the beginning, what you put your attention on grows and expands. So people are going to go, oh, that's why I'm fat, because I'm putting too much attention on physical. Maybe, maybe, maybe it needs to be more spiritual attention so that you'll be whole and you won't be trying to plug a hole that can't be filled.
I've just got to jump in here, Tanya, because
Yeah, sure.
the way that you come across to me is like, I trust you. I trust you with my life. It's like, I love the sound of your voice and the words that you speak. And it's like, I really feel you know what you're talking about. And we've talked quite a bit about chiropractic, and you have mentioned that you work online and that you do energy healing, but we haven't said much about that. So I just wonder, in the last few minutes, can you share a little bit about how you can work with people online, and that we don't have to be in your hometown or anywhere near? We can be
No, you don't. In fact, one of my clients right now is in Ireland. I'll be working with her later today. I've worked with people in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. The Seychelles was my first international client. The Seychelles is on the opposite side of the earth from where I am. It couldn't be farther away. And yet we're connected. You and I are connected right now. Anybody that's watching us, we're connected right now. I connect with your energy. And I can ask Source to show me, what do I need to see for Francesca to get what she needs? Show me what it is that she needs to know about that I can see for her.
I think we're going to be having a conversation very shortly, Tanya. And how do we'll put in the information about how people get in touch with you through your website, and through the different Facebook groups that you have, and and just by reaching out to you in the Silver Tent and in Silver Synergy, or even through YouTube. But yes, what else would you love to share in the last few minutes?
So the way that I start with people is with the intuitive energy scan, and we can have a chat before that. That's fine. That's no problem. The intuitive energy scan is a paid session, and that's where I'm reading your entire chakra system. I'm seeing what it is. We're looking at that. We're looking at that together. It brings a story together for what we need to do, and then we make a plan for how we're going to do that. And so when I'm using, you said we talked a lot about chiropractic techniques. We didn't. We talked about one chiropractic technique. The rest of the techniques I use are all energy healing techniques. And the main technique that I use is both chiropractic and energy. Nobody taught me how to do it as an online thing. It came to me. Oh, here, just do this. Oh, yeah, that's easy. I could do that. So when that happens, I feel like I'm really on the right track, because I'm listening and I'm getting the answer, right? There's always an answer. Sometimes the answer is not yet. Sometimes the answer is wait. I'm getting things ready. Sometimes the answer is it's happening, but you don't see it yet. So what's happening for most people that are doing this is they're getting to the point where they like absolutely need to have assistance to move forward. And that's where I come in. It's really hard to read the label on the bottle when you're in it, when you're in the bottle. You can't. So you need to have another set of eyes, and you need to have somebody that's experienced with that. And I do lots of different techniques. I call it all one method. It's the Healing with the Blues method. And maybe I'll sing, maybe I won't, but it's not dependent on my singing, I'll tell you that. It's dependent on where you are in your walk, in your path, where you are in your journey, and how I can come alongside and support you through that part of it. Because there are people that stay with me for a long time. There are people that stay with me for a little time, and it helps them move forward in their journey, in their healing journey.
And we said earlier, when I was doing the bio twice,
Yes.
But you help mothers and their families who've experienced stillbirth and pregnancy loss.
That's my specialty. I help anybody.
So
Okay,
that was
anybody. So listen, one of the main things that I do is help people in grief. I'm going to rewrite that, by the way, because that's a subset of what I do.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm going to rewrite that because it's a subset of what I do. The main thing that I do is help people walk through the valley of the shadow of death and not pitch a tent and live there.
Love it.
You don't need to live there. You could go out the other end of the valley, skipping and whistling a tune. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Count it all joy. Count it all joy, because when we go deeper underneath those fears, underneath that feeling of like, I can't feel this because it'll destroy me if I have all the feelings. First of all, it won't. And second of all, when you have somebody there with you that's holding your hand and helping you walk through, is so much easier. So much easier.
It
and
is.
When you come up to those barriers, you can go through them because you have somebody helping you.
It's very interesting, isn't it? I remember once losing a close friend of mine, and I wanted to wail, really scream.
Yeah.
And I was on my own at the time, and I just had this sense that if I let that energy out, I knew logically this wouldn't happen, but I couldn't help. And I thought I would disintegrate. I thought,
yeah, everybody thinks their molecules are going to fly apart,
yeah,
that they'll totally disintegrate, that there'll be a volcano that erupts, that burns themselves out. None of that's going to happen.
Is
None of
that
it.
completely normal? Lots of people feel that.
Absolutely, because they're not used to their emotions. They're not used to feeling, oh, come on, where did you grow up? We all know that button down UK way of being.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean we hold
let's
off
just have a cup of tea and not talk about it. Let's talk about anything else but our feelings. But if that's the way you experience life, through your feelings, if that's the way your physiology experiences being physical, is through your emotions, and it's the one thing you won't go to, oh my gosh, can you imagine what would happen if everyone learned how to have healthy respect for their emotions, healthy feelings, understanding? That's why we do EFT, emotional freedom technique, because when we're tapping, we're acknowledging, we're owning, we're honoring our feelings. Acknowledging, owning, and honoring our feelings. What could be easier?
Just absolutely love the way you share your wisdom, Tanya.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You make it so accessible and understandable and just like off the scale interest. And so yes, I'll just check whether there are any other comments from
Okay.
No. No, I think that was it. So,
shut them all down. They're all thinking about it. What did she say?
Thank you so very much, Tanya. It's just been just so phenomenal chatting with you, and I am going to be chatting with you again, but just not publicly, maybe.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the thing that I love to do, is the one-on-one with people, because we can really make some change. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm going to stop the live stream. And so thank you to everybody in the silver tent who have been watching. Thank you, everybody. And I am going to stop the recording. Thank you so much, Tanya.
You're very welcome.